I feel that lately Grant and I have been critical of Kyle Shanahan. And I would like us to be a little bit more balanced. It's fair to criticize somebody. I don't think he ran the OTAs or the minicamp very well, and we were critical of that. And then injuries are starting again. But I don't want you to think there's anything personal here. I've never met Kyle Shanahan or that we are out to get him. So what we're going to do is take turns naming things that we believe he does well and we admire about him. Would you like to go first, Iggy?
Absolutely. And we're doing this in the interest of fair and balanced journalism and to point out that we really feel this way. And maybe we've been focusing too much on his inequities. So I'll go first.
Yeah.
I consider Kyle Shanahan to be the best play action pass designer in the league, one of the best of all time. His dad was one of the originals. He's taken it to another level. Sean McVay's really good. But I think of him as kind of like he's way in a different school from Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh was all about the drop back passing game, and Kyle Shanahan has a totally different philosophic view. He says a quarterback's best friend is the play action game, and he builds his whole offense around it, and his play action passes look exactly like his runs. They're very hard to decipher. Everyone that wants to have, and the thing about this that's great about play action passes is they're big plays. They're not 5-yard throws. They're 15-yard throws. He doesn't do them as much with Jimmy because Jimmy has his limitations, but when he had a quarterback like Matt Ryan in Atlanta, you saw the full offense, and it was a record setter.
And I would add to that, he seems to be able to get someone open whenever he wants. That's part of what you were saying.
Yes, especially on play action. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I'm not as current on football as you are, so I'll talk about things I've noticed about him as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
His players play really hard for him. Even when they have a losing record or when it's clear they're not going to really go to the playoffs, like last season, his players play hard for him. And there's something about that. For example, Chip Kelly's players gave up on him. Iggy, would you agree that at a certain point they just sit there, they threw in the towel?
Early on. Yeah. No question.
No question. And you could see it by how many times they'd be ahead at the half and lose because the players weren't into him. Yeah. I don't see that at all with Shanahan. I see, again, I don't know him. I don't know what he's like, say, with the team only, away from media. But it really speaks well for him that his players always play hard for him.
Absolutely. And one thing I've questioned his ability to teach football to players, at least things other than wide receiver, but he clearly has a track record of teaching coaches, identifying coach talent and developing them. I mean, most of the coaches on his staff, a lot of them are guys that he's been coaching with since they were all in their 20s. He's groomed them. And then Robert Saleh in particular, let's give him credit for Robert Saleh. No one was going to make Robert Saleh defensive coordinator. He was the first Muslim coordinator in NFL history. Kyle Shanahan gave him the interview and then was smart enough to realize that Robert Saleh had done a great job in the interview and hired him. So I guess what a success. And that's all on Kyle.
Yeah. And that means that he's developing a coaching tree the way Bill Walsh did. And that really speaks well of Walsh and of him. I'll say another thing, Iggy. There is no scandal on Shanahan's teams and no tumult, no chaos. There's nothing like that. Right now, there's complete chaos with Green Bay. Complete chaos with Green Bay.
Yep.
We've never seen anything like this with Shanahan. He must really relate to the players very well, and they must respect him. And there's no scandal. You know how much I like and admire Jim Harbaugh, but there was scandal on that team. Aldon Smith, the whole story about crashing into a tree and practicing that day. There's nothing like that with Kyle Shanahan. So I'm going to say something really corny. He runs a team that fans can be proud of. It doesn't mean they always win, but they can be proud of how they comport themselves. Yes. And I think that's part of sports. For example, I think one of the things people like about Steve Kerr is a superstar like Curry comports himself beautifully.
Yes.
These are nice young men
So does
on
Klay
the
Thompson.
Warriors.
So does Draymond Green for the most part. For the most part.
Yes,
Yeah.
these are good guys,
Yeah.
and there's no scandal
Right.
on the Warriors, and I feel the same way about
That's a good one.
Shanahan.
That's a good
Yeah,
one. I got another one.
yeah.
I gotta say, I really admire his drive and the chip on his shoulder. I think he's one of the most driven people I've ever met. And the chip on his shoulder reminds me of the one I have, in the sense that we've both been accused of nepotism. We both had to fight the perception that we didn't belong, that we were fast forwarded. And I think we both feel like we have to work twice as hard to prove that uh, those things are wrong. And I see him do it. He's been doing it twice as long as me. He's such a huge success. And I admire that he has that same thing that's always going to fuel him, that he feels people think he's a fraud, and he knows that he's really not.
You have felt that, Iggy, and yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Because you're
Yeah.
my son?
Yeah, I mean, being your son was such a huge, tremendous help. You showed me how to be a journalist, but the perception from the rest of the industry was that, who does Grant think he is? He can just waltz in because he's Lowell's son. That's not and so I felt like it almost kept doors closed for a while, and maybe Kyle felt that as well.
Okay. That's a very interesting and, from my point of view, poignant comparison.
I was talking about it with Vish yesterday. He's like, you guys have a lot in common. It's funny when he said, when you go really hard on Kyle Shanahan, it's almost like you're going hard on yourself. Pretty interesting.
I did see that video.
Yeah.
Vish is a very perceptive guy.
He's extremely perceptive. Interesting that people have on my channel.
Yeah, he's wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's what I have about Shanahan. And so I want people to understand, this is not a makeup segment.
No, fair and balanced.
We're hard on him. We're trying to be balanced and fair. And we don't want you people to think that we have any agenda against anything with the 49ers. And so we thought hard about what makes Kyle really good, good. And these are what we had to add.
When I found myself referring to Kyle Shanahan as 31 and 36 for an entire day, I realized I'd probably taken a wrong turn, gone down the wrong path, and started going into Mike McGlinchey territory, and realized, you know what? Maybe it's reel it in. I got to work with Kyle. I like Kyle. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's not exactly Chip Kelly. So let's give him the respect that he deserves.
Yes. I have to agree with you, Iggy. I think calling him 31-36 was kind of demeaning.
Yeah.
And listen, you're 33, and when I was your age, I did things like that too. And then maybe like 10 years later, I would smack myself in the head and say, boy, that was a schmucky thing to do. But I didn't know it at the time.
It got you through a day. It seemed like a good idea at the time. You needed an idea, but it stuck with you forever. And you look back and you're like, I didn't need to do that. So,
and it's one thing to criticize a person for something he or she has done wrong. It's another thing to sort of demean him. And
okay, so I'm not going to demean Kyle Shanahan anymore.
Yeah. By the way, I want to own up. I have done that a million times, and I did call Tom Sula the butcher, and I continue to call him the butcher, and that may be where Iggy got the idea from. The thing is,
I got the idea from Bill Parcells, as Jay Novel points out. Bill Parcells' whole thing is you are what your record says you are, and to me, Kyle Shanahan is what his record says he isn't. Everyone says the numbers lie, and so I just wanted to be like, come on, man. Enough of calling him by his name. Let's just call him what his record is. But I wasn't trying to demean him. I was trying to do the Bill Parcells thing, but enough.
Okay. I just want to finish what I was saying about Tom Sula.
Yes.
But here's the thing about the Parcells. I'm going to forget Tom Sula, so don't let me forget.
Tom Sula.
But I want to say this first.
Yeah.
One of the things this upcoming season is about Iggy.
Yes.
Is does that 31 and 36 define him? Define Shanahan.
Yeah.
If he has a really good season, then you could say that was the fluke of numbers.
Yep.
If he ends up with around the 500 record or a little bit under, he hasn't really progressed from that. Right. And I'm not saying we should call him 31 and 36 or whatever the numbers would be, but it's something to think about.
Yes.
It's something to think about.
You were talking about Tom Sula and the Butcher.
Yeah. So I did In a way, what Iggy did was what I did with Tom Sula and calling him the butcher, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
Tom Sula really sucked. I mean, he was so out of his depth.
Yeah.
There may be one or two Tom Sula fans out there. Iggy and I covered that team. He was not up to the job. He was not good enough. And he was a very poor representative of the team. I'm going to say he was kind of a buffoon, Iggy. So I felt...
I don't think you were using the words kind of.
He was a buffoon, yeah. So I felt kind of justified. I felt he needed to be called out. Now, I can tell you that my first sports editor at the San Francisco Chronicles was a very close friend of mine, was so offended that I called him the butcher, he ended our friendship. So, wow, I mean, I thought that was kind of an extreme response. We could have talked it out, but he didn't like it either. So anyway.
So I'm going to stop calling Shanahan 31 and 36 to preserve our friendship.
Yeah, exactly. So you and Shanny, you just go.
No, you and me, our friendship. I don't want you pulling the sports editor on me.
You know, I don't think you have to worry about me. I'm your dad. I don't think you have to worry about me. So,
okay. So, thank you for the advice. I appreciate it. And Kyle, if you're watching, I'm going to give you more fair, balanced coverage from now on.